Hello, my beautiful souls, and welcome. So, it's very, very late right now. I'm actually insanely tired, but there is this persistent, strong energy coming through, and I just feel like it needs to be channeled. And right off the bat, there's something about finding balance between boundaries and openness coming through. Because I was having this inner debate with me, like I knew I wanted to record the message, but at the same time there was this voice in my head that was saying, yeah, but you're tired, it's late, you should rest, it's important to have a good quote unquote work-life balance. Although, this what I do here, it doesn't feel like work to me. And I know this is sometimes a slippery slope because of course you can also, with something you love doing, you can still do kind of too much in terms of putting energy out, and channeling is an energy intensive process. And even though to me it feels like it gives me energy, at the same time, of course, I move a lot of energy through me, so it's an energy intensive process. One of my biggest things is that sometimes I'm so insanely hungry after an intensive channeling session. So by that I can always tell, like, okay, this was very energy intense. Even though to me it feels like it's something that energizes me and that brings me so much joy. And so there seems to be like a message in and of itself in here about needing to find balance and to be like at least aware of, okay, even the things that we love, they still might take energy from us. And that there just needs to be a balance, and that we need to be aware of that. So what I decided is to come on, to record the message, because I also know that moving the energy actually helps. And I also knew if I go to bed now, I will just like lie there and we'll try to figure out what's going on. And the energy will keep on like tugging on me, tugging my sleeve. So better just sit down and record it. But I said, okay, but I will not record a video because I just don't feel like showing my face because I'm tired and actually ready for bed. So yeah, I'm sitting here in my comfy clothes and with probably very small, tired eyes. But I think it's not, I did a lot today. So it is certainly tiredness from my day, but I actually feel like this is not just me. This is also the energy I'm tapping into. There is a deep exhaustion. And what also comes through, and this is something that came up in 2 readings, there's a sadness. So I do, for me, it seems like it connects with a certain energy stream. where I talked about sadness. There's a sense of sadness in the heart space, and it seemed to linger with me during my day, and there were things happening, and I got really upset by seemingly not that huge things, but to me they felt like they were a huge deal. And there were even a few situations that brought me to tears, and I could just feel like my inner child was so upset. So yeah, I feel like this energy, this sadness energy, it stayed, like it was with me like the whole day. And you have to know, for me, it's like I'm part of this collective. So I do go through parallel experiences. Like I can relate with most of the messages I'm channeling, and so it's not always that easy to distinguish between like, is it me or is it something collective? And usually the answer, it's both, because like in the end everything is one and there's not really a difference. And when you are part of a certain collective, then everyone who's like in this collective has kind of the same like underlying energies that are at work, but of course it's showing up differently in every single life. So I'm not sure why I'm talking about that, but I do have a sense what this sadness is about, but somehow it's hard for me to name it, to really put my finger on it. So I have my oracle decks, an oracle deck here and a tarot deck here, and I'm always taking note on like to what decks I'm drawn to, and those are the decks, like I use them a lot. And they are actually, like, the oracle deck is always saying my truth deck, like the one when I really want to like get a reality check. And the tarot deck is my most neutral one, or at least to me it feels very neutral, or balanced, and also in the artwork. So there seems to be like a need for clarity, a need for balance, and a need for I hear neutralizing energy. I'm kind of getting hung up on this feeling of exhaustion, desperation almost. Like, yeah, there, like within this exhaustion, there's actually like this deep, deep feeling of sadness. And I'm hearing different phrases, but actually, yeah, I think I want to pull some card, and then we'll see. All right, so we have Loyal Heart, Here and Now reversed, and Young reversed. This is very much confirmation for what I felt before. The sadness feels like a feminine energy to me. And there is like this deep feeling of being misunderstood, being, I hear, left in the cold, and being left behind. And I hear something about like having to prove myself. And not like this having to prove oneself, not in a way of, oh, I have to show what I'm capable of, or like I have to succeed in something, but to prove myself, like the self, my core, the core of who I am. And there is something coming through about the feminine nature, the wisdom of the feminine nature. And with this loyal heart, and of course, like you can't see it, but there are two owls on there, and one is, to me, they're speaking about, like, they look a little different. So one looks like feminine and the other like masculine to me. They're both wearing a crown, and they are actually, like, their bodies are facing in different directions, but their heads are turned and they look at each other. So it almost is this heart shape, but the heart is open on the top. It's not closed. So they are attached to each other at the back, at their wings, and they're looking at each other, but like the heart is open on the top. And this kind of seems significant to me. There's something, it's like there's a piece missing in there. And this loyalty has something restrictive about it in its energy. That I hear something about chains. So it feels like being chained together. And even if they wanted to, they cannot fly away because they are attached at their backs to each other. But they cannot completely turn and face each other. So this seems to be some kind of, it seems like it's an unresolvable situation. But what's also here in the card, there's, there's I think it's called a garland. There's a garland hanging up there, and it's a little bit hard to see because they are like almost, they're not hidden, but they're camouflaging with the different elements of the garland. There are two keys, so there actually is a solution, but it's somehow hard to see. So with the here and now and the Yang card in reverse, there's some kind of resistance. I'm not sure if like the resistance is real with the Yang card, with the masculine energy. I'm not sure if the resistance is real or is it perceived as a resistance. There is a resistance to acknowledging the magic in the world, to really acknowledge the wonders. And this ties back into the sadness I was talking about that I felt on the feminine side. And I'm talking about energy here. This doesn't have to be a female person. It's about the feminine energy. And the feminine energy is related to deep inner wisdom, intuitive wisdom, knowing. Not the factual knowledge, but the intuitive knowledge. And there is like this, the sadness about the doubt that is present in the world in general. And to me here, it seems like there is a certain connection where the masculine part in this connection, the masculine energy in this connection is in a doubtful energy. Having a hard time to actually acknowledge things that he cannot explain. And there comes this feeling in of I have to prove myself. And the thing with intuition is this is not, or with anything that is more in those realms of the feminine nature, it's hard to prove. And we've been talking about this on this channel over the last days, weeks, with like it's a two-edged sword, the whole psychism stuff and getting readings and doing readings, mediumship and all of that. Because we can receive messages, we can receive signs and synchronicities and all of that. And it's sometimes leading us down a path that is confusing, and we are interpreting certain signs in a certain way that maybe do not really, like, it doesn't really reflect what's actually here, what's the reality. But, and there, like, there can be this behavior of being too easily influenced, or believing too easily, buying into certain things too easily. But the flip side of that, of course, is to doubt everything and to not believe anything, and to say, you have to prove this to me before I'm going to believe that there is something other than like this physical reality. I keep hearing, like, I don't want to believe in magic. And I'm wondering why that is. Because the thing is, the fact that you are connected to this masculine energy, or maybe you are, I mean, you could also very well be like this masculine energy, like you could feel more connected with this masculine energy, because we all have both inside of us. And I'm not gonna lie, this is a thread of energy. Like I said, it's been coming up on this channel in the last two videos, and it was always twin flame related. So this seems to be a continuation of a certain stream of energy. And if this is a mirror soul connection, then you do have this masculine aspect inside of you as well. It's simply not clearly visible to you, which is why it's manifesting in the outside world, aka like the other polarity, the other person, embodied through the other person. And I don't know if it is because I'm tired, or because there's, I feel like I feel like I'm overcomplicating things right now with my language and how I speak about stuff. And so, it could be because I'm tired. And, my English is getting not necessarily better when I'm tired. But it actually feels like there is like this overthinking energy. There's this overcomplicating things, having to think everything through. And like I said, like give me the facts, give me the, I want to see factual evidence, physical evidence. But with like the here and now card that is also in reverse, I feel like there actually is evidence, but it's not acknowledged, or it's not wanted to be seen. There seems to be something overlooked. There's another card that came out, and they told me to keep it concealed for now, and now they tell me to turn it around. And it's also in reverse. So there's a lot of reversal energy here, which in my readings usually means that there is, like, we are working with the energy is present, but there's some kind of twist to it, or sometimes it's a blockage, sometimes it's a distorted way that the energy comes through, or something we don't see, or like there's something less straightforward about the energy. Let's call it that way. So the card is called Come to the Edge, and I'm somehow called to tell you that the number of the card is 36. And it's like a rock that's hovering midair, and there's a woman in a white dress, and like the rock is not very big, but she is dancing on the edge, and there are rose petals swirling around her. So to me, this speaks about, because she's so free, and she's wearing this white dress, and there's like those rose petals flying all around her and through the air. And she's just like, she's so carefree, and I heard carelessly dancing on the edge. And this is the reversal energy that's in here, because I wanted to say carefree, but my mind kind of corrected me and said it's careless. So that's the reversal in here. There is a fear in, if you trust that, like, she knows she's safe. She's dancing on the edge. She's trusting her inner balance, her inner guidance. But there seems to be this energy here present that is afraid that she might fall, and saying like it's careless to dance this close to the edge. But what this energy, and I will get to like where this comes from. I'm not naming the energy for now, like from where it's coming or what or who that is. But what this energy does not realize is that by thinking it's careless, by being afraid, having this fear, this anxiety, this worry, that's what's making it dangerous. That's what's actually bringing her off balance. Okay, now they're telling me to here clarify with a few tarot cards. This is interesting because usually I don't get those clear instructions on keep this card concealed and now turn it and clarify. Usually this is not the typical way, at least not how my guides work with me. Okay, so we have the Crown of Coins, which is the King of Pentacles, and the Eight of Wands reversed. Yeah, so this is because I said I'm not sure who that is or what kind of energy that is, where this is coming from. So this is, yeah, speaking to me to this masculine aspect I was talking about, and what I tried to say earlier, like in this overly complicated way, that, like I said, it's masculine energy, and yes, it is embodied through this person that you are connected to, but it's also present inside of yourself. So don't fall into the trap of saying like, oh, he's the one who's blocking it, like he as in the other person, but remember to see it as this neutral energy. And this is why I like explained at the beginning, this is why I was drawn to my neutral cards decks. Because they want to, as guides, the guides that are present here, they want to keep it in this neutral energy state, in this abstract state of, no, let's not focus on the person, let's focus on the energy that's present, and remember that it's also present inside of yourself and in the connection. So, with the Eight of Wands reversed, like there's something wants to come in, but it's blocked. It's blocked, and it seems to be blocked by this Crown of Coins here. And there's again, like there's a necklace on this card here with a little skull. So this brings me back to those chains. So the masculine energy, and there's something in those soul connections about the masculine energy being as incredibly annoying this can feel, and it can feel like they are, and they say, no, it's not the person, but it can feel like the person is the one who's blocking process, is blocking the going, like moving on. And I just heard an ambulance in the background, and this is confirmation to what I was about to say for me. What this perceived blocking energy is actually making sure that everything is safe, in a sense of, is everything really aligned so that we can move forward. And when the masculine energy still feels like, nope, there's something out of whack, like this is not completely aligned yet, then it doesn't give the green light. And for the feminine, this can feel very annoying because it wants to move. But we need to understand, they say, that this is actually an like inbuilt security system or like making sure that it's like a quality insurance. And yeah, the King of Pentacles energy is a very slow moving energy, and it can feel like excruciating slow. But the the King of Pentacles knows that in order to be successful in the long term, he has to ensure that he has all his ducks in a row. And it seems like there's still something not quite lined up to his satisfaction. So what is that? Like there's still this issue with the doubting, and also on the feminine side, like this deep sadness. Yeah. Spirit, can you please give us a little more, or some advice, or some like where to look? Okay, so this is going back to the last reading I did actually. There is, for one card came out that was in that reading, and it's called Blessed. It was a pick a card reading. It was 3 streams of energy I was tapping into, and the sadness I referred to was actually like the second card, and this Blessed card came out in the third card, like with the third thread of energy I tapped into, but I could already tell that all of those three streams, they were actually related to each other. They were just like different stages or different expressions of connected processes. And the other card that came out here is No Place Like Home. And in the thread I felt into that sadness, that we actually talked about the feeling of being at home and becoming whole and coming back to this feeling of I am whole and I am home within myself. So what I get here is that there is, for one, this need to connect with this energy that gives us a sense of being home. And this is what we felt with that other person, right? Like the expression of that polar opposite energy. And so when we were in that state of being together with them, it was a feeling of being complete, being whole, and being home. And Spirit explained in that reading that this experience, like you were given that experience, being together with that person, in order to experience what it feels like to be in that state of inner completeness. And then the separation happens, and this happens in order to push you into growth and into a process of soul retrieval, so that you go out there and collect all the different pieces of your soul that have been lost, forgotten, scattered somewhere. And when you go about your journey, what many call the twin flame journey, it's actually like a process of soul retrieval. And you collect all those different parts and pieces and fractures of your soul that you lost over many, many lifetimes, and also in this life. So this is a process of becoming whole again, and with that, coming home to yourself. And the other reading, like in that, like the other stream of energy that's connected to the blessed card that came out here again, there was something about like owning your unique mystical path, like your own unique inner mystical energies. That's now it's becoming clear to me, like this is about like your inner feminine wisdom. And you know, you don't have to be like a psychic to do that. Like you can be an artist, you can be a writer, you can be an accountant and still work with that energy. I have a degree in art history and history, and to be honest, I didn't know that at that time, but now in hindsight, I do very clearly see that I was so tapped in during even back then, and my like all the papers I wrote, I channeled them basically. I had this unique, weird process where I would just kind of like to observers, it looked like I was just, I was reading, but I also just sat around and did nothing. Like it looked like procrastinating, but I knew for myself that's my process. I was sitting and waiting until one day I would wake up and I would open my eyes and I had a brilliant idea I knew what my paper was going to be about, and I just sat down and I wrote it within 1 or 2 days. It was like this whole channeling process. And I also know, like, I have the ability to work with Akashic. So, to me, I'm sure I already used that ability back then. So you don't have to be a psychic in order to work with those abilities, those gifts, to be open to using them for yourself in whatever work you do, or in what, like, also in your daily life, in when you're a mom or a dad. I don't know why I get a dog trainer right now. Maybe someone there like works with dogs, and like any kind of work with animals. Like, it's when you are able to tap into those deeper intuitive spaces, when you work with plants, with animals, with children. That's a great place where you can do that, because they are not in resistance to this, or you don't feel like you have to hide those abilities. And I feel like we're getting closer to something here, because, in like what I do here, it's obvious, like it's in your face. When you come to a reader, like, okay, they're using those kinds of abilities, but it's getting a little bit more complicated when you are in a profession, or even in your like everyday life. It doesn't even have to be work related, but it's coming through pretty strongly here. So maybe that's something for you, where you have those issues. Like with me, with my history papers, for example, I had this habit of almost hiding from my professors, because I didn't want to having to talk with them before I handed my paper, because I always knew when I hand it in and it's ready and it's done, it will be good or great even. And I don't have to worry about that. But I knew that my process looked so different. And when I wrote my final paper for my master's degree, and I had to meet with my professor and talk with him about my process, and I didn't really had anything to show. I didn't have anything to share, like only a little bit, and I had I had a feeling, I had an inkling, and I do I do remember how I tried to tell him, and that I had this feeling that there was something there, and that my intuition is telling me that there's something there. And he literally said at some point, he was nice, he was a nice person, and he listened to me, and like at some point he was like, yeah, you're talking a little bit too much about intuition here. I need a little bit more. I need facts. This is it's a paper for like it's an academic paper, and it was completely understandable to me, and that was the reason why I usually would hide from my professors, because I knew I couldn't explain my process. It wouldn't make sense to anybody. So for the longest time, I tried to hide it, to hide that process. And I feel like there is something with that, like, this nature of the masculine energy in general, and like the world out there, that doesn't, for the most part, doesn't believe in those things. This intuitive knowing, and there seems to be something, especially in those maybe line of works, professions, like in my case, in university, in an academic field, or I said it earlier, like being an accountant. I actually once met a woman on a retreat, and she was so, like, that woman, she had some serious gifts, and she was so tapped in, and she was actually like helping to facilitate this retreat. But at some point I discovered that she actually works for, like, as a lawyer for the German government. And to me, that was just astonishing. It was amazing. And I was like, wow, I'm so happy to know that someone like her is actually working in such a place. Because that is where those people are actually like really needed. I feel like this can only benefit a place like that if somebody like her works there. But I can only imagine that it's quite a stretch for someone to work there. And it's, to me, like, it felt like she was called to, it was kind of her calling to do that. And I thought it was beautiful. But yeah, there seems to be something about like that this masculine energy is actually, it feels blocked from being able to show their true nature, which, like, the masculine energy is afraid of showing the true nature of the feminine that is connected with them. And because, there's this fear of judgment. It's going deeper. It's not just a fear of judgment. It's a fear of, it feels witch wound related. It's like it's a witch wound-ish energy. There's this, it always comes back to fear of persecution, basically. And when we are afraid to show our abilities in spaces outside of those what we perceive as safe spaces, like the spiritual community. But even within the spiritual community, it can sometimes be hard to like really go out with what your truth is. And this is usually related to trauma and deep wounds from persecution. And can be from this life, but often, like most of the time, it's from past lives as well. Very often there is some residual energy from the burning times and witch hunts and all of that. So this seems to be the issue. What I'm wondering now is because I mean, they're so determined in focusing not on the person, but on the energy. And to me, it feels like, because this again goes back to the sadness within the feminine, and this feeling of being chained to somebody, like not being able to move. And by making it about the other person, you are actually keeping yourself stuck. But because then it's, like you are dependent on somebody else changing their behavior or changing like working through stuff for themselves, and you cannot force them, right? You cannot really do anything about that. So there's this feeling of disempowerment about that. And this is why they say it's so important to not make it about the other person, not to look at the other person and their progress, but to look at the energy. And now they're coming back to one of my favorite topics, the archetypes that are present within yourself, because basically the masculine and the feminine energy, they are archetypes. They're archetypal energies. And there are many different archetypes that, like within the feminine and the masculine, there are many different flavors of that energy, and they are perceived by us as archetypes. And this is a great way to work with that. So now they're saying that we should look for the archetypes inside of us that are the representatives of those issues. And I can feel your confusion now. I just heard, how on earth am I supposed to do that? Well, I cannot answer that for you because I feel like this is very, this is different for each and every one of you. I can share how it shows up for me. So to me, this usually is that I know that I realize that certain archetypes keep on showing up in my reality. For example, that suddenly certain movie characters are all over the place, like are everywhere. Or that, I don't know, the songs that I'm listening to, they kind of have like the same underlying theme. Or I realized that when I talk to people, like the same topics keep coming up. Something like that. Although those are more like the issues themselves, the topics. But when it comes to archetypes, yeah, like I said, sometimes just seemingly randomly, suddenly, like on my YouTube feed, there are shorts, like movie clips coming up. And actually, I'm just realizing something on my own, like for my own. I was wondering, I got a lot of Harry Potter stuff, and I don't know why. I didn't, like, it's so random. I don't know why. It keeps showing up. And now me talking about the witch wound, and like then there's all this magic stuff showing up on my feed. And you can hear that, you can hear that my voice is, I'm losing my voice suddenly. So this is also, okay, this is about the witch wound, and now my voice is coming back. So there's something about the witch wound, like I said earlier, something about showing your magic, being accused of, being accused of witchcraft. Although this is not what we are afraid of nowadays, right? This is what it seems like a part of you, like an old part of you is afraid of, but it's showing up in your life in a different way, like this hiding your abilities. Like I shared earlier, how I did it in my university times. I mean, to be fair, back then I didn't even know what it was. I just knew that it worked, and I knew that it was weird. And I knew that I had to keep it a secret because nobody would understand. And it feels to me that maybe for the other person, it is a little bit like that. They don't fully understand what's going on. That's not for all of you. That's maybe for some of the, like your, like if you have like a masculine counterpart, they might know their abilities, their gifts, but they cannot really explain it. And so they feel like they will be judged, they will be not taken serious. So they hide it. But for you, this will be happening in a lot more conscious way. So, yeah, like you can work with that for yourself, and you can see how this old witch wound is showing up in your life, in your reality, where you realize, I keep myself small. I don't share this openly. What are your fears? What are your triggers? Like, from where do you get triggered when it touches the topic of psychism, for example, or like anything that's related to intuition, trusting your intuition, trusting your inner wisdom, your magic, following that inner guidance without being able to explain it to others. What are you afraid of? So that's somewhere to look. All right. I apologize for, like, if I don't know, I'm gonna, there's so many pauses in there, and I talked so slowly, and my brain is so tired. I'll have to edit this a lot, but yeah, I think it's still gonna be very long because I'm so slow. I'm so tired. But yeah, this is, it feels like, to me, it feels like a breakthrough, actually. It feels pretty, like that's some kind of revelation here. So yeah, I hope you feel the same way. I hope it serves you. And like always, I would love to hear from you in the comments, what your takeaways are. And yeah, thanks for being here with me to this late hour. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video. And until then, take care.